Just we're in fifth quarter now, and we are the youngest quarter. So like we're like the last class coming out, and we did our CCEPs earlier in the year, and we have lab finals this upcoming week, and then finals the next week.
Cool.
Busy time.
Going through it.
Feels like only yesterday, Joe.
No, it really does. Do you live in North Park?
No, I don't actually live where Great Mall is. I live next to Great Mall at the Amalfi Apartments.
Okay. You used to live
Yeah,
pretty
it's
close
like
there,
maybe
Dan?
like 10-minute drive.
Skinner?
Yeah,
You used to live pretty close to there, didn't you?
I lived in Mountain View when I wasn't living at North Park.
Really?
Yeah, with a programmer from Google. It's crazy.
That's weird. I didn't know you were in I was in Mountain View too.
Mountain View.
Yeah, well, I remember you and I used to come into class early because we'd beat the commute. Remember, we'd show up there like half an hour early.
Yeah.
Because everyone else, if you get in San Jose traffic, you're stuck for forever.
Yeah, I'd be banging a
Yeah, definitely.
Well, hey,
But
thanks for joining us, Art.
Yeah, of course.
I figured we could start it off
No problem.
with you just kind of describing a couple things about like, seminars you've taken, things that you've experienced like so far in your chiro career as a student at Palmer West. A little bit of that background too would be nice for the people that might be watching.
Okay. Yeah, when I was a first quarter, I actually took the DNS seminar, the dynamic neuromuscular stabilization. And I was like one of the few first quarters that were like just kind of gung ho, like, yeah, I'll take the seminar, I'll go to this, whatever. So I kind of picked that up pretty early, and that was like the first seminar I took. And I also Drew McClure came in to do like an extremities adjusting workshop. So I attended that. And then I got into the chiropractic or the California Chiropractic Association, which is the state association, and they do like sports symposiums in the summers and a fall conference. So I've attended those as well. Just series of speakers that come through and talk to us about their different areas of expertise and experiences. So that's I feel like that exposed me to a lot that's out there in the chiro field. And for myself, I made it a point. Actually, my chiropractor back in Arizona, before I was going to chiro school, he was like, "Okay, just go out there and make it an effort to visit different offices, pick up what you like, disregard what you don't like. You kind of build your own practice already when you're going through school." And so I've been doing this thing where I go and like reach out to chiropractors in the area. I'll go and talk to them. I'll do an interview with them. And through my Instagram page, I post these interviews, and it's available on like YouTube as well. And I just ask them questions like, "Hey, like, what does chiropractic mean to you? What is your philosophy? How do you treat patients?" So it's a way for me to kind of get that exposure. And also I just happen to share it with anyone else that might be interested as well, whether it be like fellow students or other chiropractors or just people generally interested in that area.
Pretty awesome.
Yeah, man, that sounds great. It's I think it was so
Yeah,
important
it's been
for
fun.
us. Oh, sorry, I think there's a lag, a lag here. I didn't mean to cut you off, but I was gonna say like being able to see
No
what other
worries.
people do is such an important part because there's so much variety in the field. Like people specialize in all kinds of different things, and so it's cool to be able to
Right.
pass over that like secondhand experience to others too. Because I think some of the best lessons I ever learned were going to offices and shadowing docs and hearing their take on things.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. And then before I started school, I actually worked at a chiropractic office as an assistant. I was working full time, and I actually still work there, but now it's like part time, just come in like in the weekends to help out. But I felt like for me, that was a good way of just getting exposure to the field itself and what it's like to be in the practice and treating patients. And that was like from my mom's advice. She was like, listen, if you're really interested in this, work in that field for like a year and see if you'll actually like being in that field. So, hey, like here I am. So
Yeah,
that's something that I did want to move forward
that's sound
Good
advice.
advice.
Really good advice.
with.
You got good
Well,
people.
Yeah.
It makes me like, I don't know if you were in class with anyone like this too, but I think there were at least 2 people in our quarter that had never been to a chiropractor before being in chiropractic school. It was the most, it seemed pretty outrageous to think that, you know, you'd choose a profession without actually having had that. But I think it's
Yeah.
good advice to be in the field and see more than just like the treatment side too. Being able to see the business side and being able to see all the back end is
Right.
probably incredibly helpful.
Yeah, I think most of my classmates, not all, have had some sort of experience with chiropractors, whether it's like working for one or at least seeing a chiropractor. But yeah, I've heard of that situation where it's like, hey, how did you ever get into the field if you've never actually been treated or like at least visited a chiropractic office? That's a
Oh
weird
yes, I think
scenario.
some people just like the idea of it. I think the answers we got where one person says, "Oh, I wanted to be my own boss and I liked the healthcare," and another person was like, "Oh,
Ah,
it seems fun. It looks enjoyable," and it's like, well, it's funny that you wouldn't experience that, but you know, to each his own.
Another person said they saw a good YouTube clip, so they decided that'd be a good idea.
yeah, I mean I think it's an era where you're exposed to it more now. There's like more opportunity to see chiropractic, whether it's like YouTube or like TikTok or Instagram. You could like it's easily to just come across it, even if you had no idea, no experience with it before. I think that's a good thing. It's like it piques people's interest.
Yeah, there's definitely a positive to it. I remember this guy. He's a physical therapist out in Boston. Dan Pope is his name. He posted this thing about the metrics on what is the most viewed type of healthcare thing on the internet. And I think chiropractic was like leaps and bounds above everybody else when they looked that up. It was like somewhere in the billions. And I think the
Yeah,
next closest thing was like in the millions, like hundreds of millions. But like, dude, a billion?
right.
Billion people watching that. That's crazy. Like whether it's for like ASMR or just
Yeah.
curiosity or just going across their page, that's the amount of view it got. That I thought that was like it was kind of mind blowing to me. I was like, that's a lot of exposure.
I feel like in the last six
Yeah, I would
months,
imagine like less people, or I mean, like, people would be more inclined to watch something chiropractic related versus like looking up a patellar tendon replacement.
Yeah.
So it's
Well,
like, okay, this is like this.
but it's also one of those things. It's like you're not going to catch too many videos of surgical operations happening on the web. You know, it's
Yeah,
like your discretion.
yeah, yeah,
This is it shows kind of like you know what we do. It might look a little crazy, but at the end of the day, it's not.
well, when you see
yeah,
the crazy amount of difference how people are treated too, and see how extreme some of these adjustments are too, it makes you feel quite safe in what you're doing. I bet you anything, there's
yeah.
been in the last 6 months, at least a couple times a week, I get a new patient who comes in and they're just like, I saw a TikTok video and I just like want to give this a try. So I think in a
Right,
lot
yeah,
of ways it's been good for the profession. Although I think it would be kind of interesting if like a person came in like that and they were set up with say like a strictly exercise rehab doc and they didn't do any hands-on work or anything like that. It would probably be a little bit of a missed expectation, but
Yeah.
yeah,
I had
yeah.
somebody come in who saw a video of me adjusting one of my patients, and she's like, "How do I get that?" I was like, "Just schedule an appointment." So she did, and she
Yeah.
never. But obviously, it's not going to be like, "Hey, just lay down, let me make some noise with the body." It was like, "Okay, let's get down to the
Right.
bottom of this. Like, what bothers your body? Is there something you want to improve on?" And then we take it there.
who's your roommate?
Who's that?
Hey, this is King. So
Hey, hey.
wanted to say hi.
What's up, buddy?
Say hi.
It's funny. I saw something bobbing around back there, and I was like, "Do you have a cat back there?" I got my I got my son here as well. Just
Yeah, I was just telling Joe that I was giving the dogs a bath too, and they've been a handful. There was a field that was letting them run around, but I didn't expect it to be like muddy. And then as soon as they started running, I knew instantly. I'm like, oh, okay, I gotta give them a bath now.
Get the place all dirty, for sure.
Yep.
Well,
so you're in fifth quarter now. You guys are the last the last generation going through the program. That's a lot of
Yeah.
I mean, it's bittersweet, right? The fact that you got in the last little bit, but also it's kind of I feel pretty sad that the school's going to be kind of switching gears and everyone's going to be going over to the other campuses. But it sounds like you've also had a really cool, probably similar with the way that we went through school. It's like you get a lot of exposure to continuing ed classes, but also through clubs and groups and other students and everything like that. And it sounds like you've done a bunch of courses and been able to see a lot of what other people are offering. It's like, is there anything in particular that you look for when you're looking for a continuing ed class? Is there something that like really is, feels like something that you want to tackle in your own kind of toolbox?
Yeah, I mean, I definitely from the get-go wanted to get good at adjusting like right away. Because that's like, after boards and like studying and all that, that's a lot of what you do in the profession. So I'm like, this is something that I really got to get hands on and start building that toolkit. And that's why when I heard about your seminar, are we still going by hula or are doing HVLA now?
I think we're gonna stick with HVLA. It's just easier, I guess.
Yeah, when I heard about HVLA, I was like, oh yeah, like at first I was like, oh, what is that? I mean, is it like just another one of those seminars where we're having someone just kind of instruct us? But when I had the opportunity to interview you guys, and I was kind of like, yeah, like I'm really drawn into it because I, I want to really work on the technique and the building, expanding the toolbox and learning different ways to move. And I appreciated the way it was ran because the instruction and the one-on-ones and the hands-on was more than like I've experienced with the seminars that I've taken so far.
Well, that's good to hear, man. I think that's like one thing that, when we teach a course, we hope that we're getting through a lot of that stuff, but it's always nice to hear because that's really what we want. We want people to leave with a ton of hands-on experience. And like you said, hands-on work is one of the biggest things that defines our profession. Is what kind of puts us, I think, at the top of the pile is good hands-on manual work. And so and it's also good to hear about some of your apprehensions at first too. Like, were there any other things that kind of made you apprehensive about taking a course, especially with the way we kind of presented it?
Yeah, I took so before uh, taking the HVLA seminar, I actually went to a charrette seminar, and that was like adjustment heavy too. So I was kind of thinking along like, is it going to be kind of like that? Because I've been to a seminar like that, and as a student, you just kind of want to like put the value of what you're putting your money into. And so that's why when I was able to talk to you guys, and I saw that was like, okay, there's going to be a good amount of time having hands-on and having feedback and having that one-on-one. And that's exactly what I experienced. And I think the most valuable part was like the honest feedback. When you're you come into something like, oh, I think I have a good idea of how to do the side posture. And then when you hear like the honest feedback, when it's not really like a condescending kind of feedback or anything or looking down on you, it's just like, hey, like I think you could really improve by doing this and creating this. And it just like helped like me, like, okay, like I feel like pretty good at it, but there's definitely improvement and I'm gonna apply that to what I do moving forward.
That's
That's
great.
awesome.
Yeah, and the nice thing is I think Joe and I have been to pretty much every seminar that was offered at our time at Palmer, and we were kind of in that same, like, you're a very ambitious guy, and obviously making sure that you're getting a good variety of different stuff that's out there. And like, I think having seen what was already being presented, like, with McClure and Charette and all these other people that are great and like very inspiring to come and watch them. I think like our intention behind creating HVLA was to kind of fill the holes that we saw that were there, that where it came to, it's not necessarily, repetition and practice makes perfect. It's more like perfect practice makes perfect. And being able to, get real well articulated feedback too, because, when I was going through school, a lot of it was like, oh, that felt all right. That was good. And it's like, I don't even know what that means until someone actually breaks down small little things. And, I think like our core group were, I think, more instrumental for me learning really good hands-on work, because, it would be something as simple as like, hey, you pulled my hair when you moved my head on the table there, or man, you need a breath mint, or, you can't pull my knee up that high. That just doesn't feel good. And it's very specific, and learning those small things makes all the difference.
I think the details that some people might not necessarily be 100% aware of, or maybe they thought about it, but they didn't think it mattered at the same time. But really, those little things matter significantly when you're working with somebody. And they matter to you. It's going to increase, your success. If you're comfortable, they're comfortable. If you're stiff, they're stiff. Like those type of things, like people pick up on it. It's interesting to hear you say that, but kind of like what Dan was talking about, like the mild, like there's mild apprehensions, right? When you're first kind of signing up for seminars and you're trying to figure out which one you want to do, or, I don't think I necessarily need that right now. What would you say after having the experience, like one thing, like what you took outside of just the feedback, another piece of the seminar that you kind of didn't expect? And then also, what would you say to someone that might be a little apprehensive?
I would say this seminar is good for anyone at any level, because you guys have a great skill in being able to break down things and explain it to somebody, whether they're like, fourth quarter or 13th quarter, or like whatever trimester they're in at that point. That's very valuable. And the availability of the course being recorded and the notes were helpful for me specifically, because I was like on my iPad and I was kind of following along what we were doing and writing down, okay, like this is what I need to work on. This is something I learned new about this specific technique. But yeah, that those resources are great to look back into and kind of like jog your memory. And okay, now this is what I want to focus on when I practice this specific technique next. And the other thing for me, that I've actually been feeling more when I'm getting adjusted, and especially when I'm trying to adjust someone, is the idea of, am I like targeting the segment that I'm targeting, and am I moving that segment? Versus like, hey, I heard a pop and it was successful. Like I'm more like precise now, and I'm like, okay, like we gotta zero in. Like, did I actually move what I wanted to move, or was there just a bunch of things that went off that actually didn't move?
Makes me happy to hear you say that.
Yeah.
I'm gonna cry. That's awesome.
It's so much more about just hearing pops and releases, and I think we even opened with that. That was like one of the first things we said when we taught for you guys, which it's honestly been like my mantra in practice as well too. It's like, even if I think I've got a successful adjustment, I'm like rechecking and making sure we got movement in those right areas. And we're dealing with such a unique population when we're in school, because we're dealing with very fit, for the most part, very mobile, like people who've already experienced manipulation in the past. Like most people have been to chiros, and most people can figure out ways for their, to release spots in their body. But you know what? Those small, tiny little changes, those small little things, they all add up. And sometimes, that a summation of all those small details allow you to manipulate something in a person's back that they've never had before. And that's like one of those amazing experiences you get as a chiropractor, where someone who's, lived a full life, where they're, been abusing their body, all of a sudden gets that feeling of relief, or that unique adjustment they've never had, even though they've heard pops in their body before. So I think it's like that is like why I'm here teaching this course too. Is like Joe and I and Chris and Demir, we've like pretty much established that that's the most important thing to pass along to the next generation. And, you know, sadly, Palmer West isn't going to be continuing anymore. So you guys are that last generation. So it's so nice to hear you say that. It's like really is, you know, it's motivating for us.
Yeah, most definitely. Yeah, and you know, the other thing is that I was thinking about this when I was driving the other day, just kind of like a random thought that hit my head was I'll see every now and then that, you know, like there's like a pendulum in the chiropractic world, right? You've got this like really rehab heavy, then you have this like, you know, only adjusting C1 heavy, right? And then like there's two sides to every, Chris said that, right? He said there's two sides to every story and the truth lies somewhere in the middle. So, and I've thought that with a lot of things, but in regards to being able to place your hand in a spot that you claim is not moving very well, and then you're going to try to manipulate and create more movement. It's like, how are you checking yourself in that? And then I'll see these posts about like, well, specificity doesn't matter. Like, I understand what it means. Like when they're looking at the research articles and they see that it's not that great, and it's like, well, yeah. Bad news is chiropractic research it sucks. It's really not good. It's not good research. I'll be the first.
A lot of it's not done by chiropractors either, and it's often this propagated thinking that comes around with a few studies that don't really get challenged as well. And like the great thing about being in a evidence-based school is you learn to punch holes in bad research.
Yeah.
And so there's a lot of research out there that's just like average to poor. But it kind of sits with a really good narrative, which is like it's a lot easier for people to think, oh, go general because it doesn't matter. You can't be specific anyway. But like intent is everything, I think. Even if your intent is specific and the outcome becomes more general, the likelihood is you're going to funnel in that therapy a little bit closer to just throwing a dart on a dartboard.
Yep. That's exactly what I was just going to say was like, if the more general you are, the more general result you're going to get. And then there's times where you really need to hone in and zero in with a person where it's like, you need a specific outcome, you need a specific result. So it's going to take specificity to get you to whatever it is you're looking for, whether that's like from manipulation, exercise, rehab, because it's like, well, if I'm a very exercise rehab person, am I just going to give everybody a TheraBand and make them do external rotation because they have poor posture and I think they have shoulder pain? It's like, well, no, you would never do that. If you are an exercise heavy person, you would understand that you would do something more specific. Same thing.
Though?
Yeah.
It's just, I don't know. It was
Would
just
you? I mean, like, I think that exists in like, I mean, I work with some great physical therapists. I know some other physical therapists as well. I wouldn't send my worst enemy to. And like, I think that a lot of like the mindset shift that I've had in the last 5 years has been very similar, like strikingly similar to what my background in training was like, where specificity is important. But if all of your training you're doing in the gym, like I think about anywhere between 15 to 20% of the training you do in the gym for athletics is specific. And then that 80% is general. And that general effect is like sometimes just overwhelmingly positive. And if you're just focusing on these tiny little gains that you get through specificity, you want to marry the two in a way that works best for the person, right? So I think we can't negate the fact that, and we can't forget the fact that general is really helpful sometimes too. Like I can't tell you how many times a patient has come in and I've done a general treatment with them and they forgot about another part of their body that was hurting. They're like, oh, I didn't realize like, oh, my neck feels better now too, even though they came in with a back complaint. And general can really address a lot of, it can do a lot more than just the, touching, ouchy spots on people and making that stuff feel better, right? We can have a good general effect in the rest of their life.
Yeah.
Can you hear Gordy squeaking on a squeak toy over here?
I can.
You can?
Very light. It's so light.
Oh, it's hilarious. I've like taken his toys from him, but he's giving me the mean mug. When you were talking about some of the the first apprehensions that you get about signing up for a course, like I remember the very first Dan McClure course that we were going to take, and I think I was in second or first quarter, and Chris, who's you didn't get a chance to meet him, but Chris he's a total beauty and like a very, very, he's a enthusiastic guy and was very much like, one of the big pushers for us doing a lot of things in clubs and courses and workshops. And he convinced me to go. I was not ready in my mind to go to the McClure seminar, because I'm like, I don't have any place there. I'm a first quarter. I haven't even done any setups or anything. And we show up, and that blew my mind. And that set this bar for me that I think that was probably, if I were to look back, probably one of the most influential courses I ever took, because I was like, wow, I didn't know that all this stuff was possible. And and I wouldn't have gone if it wasn't for Chris convincing me to go.
Yeah, same here. We both went together on that one.
Mm-hmm. So
yeah, I've been actually like listening on your guys' podcasts, and then I hear Chris too, so kind of familiar with your guys' interactions with each other. But yeah, that's definitely like I feel like that's an idea that a lot of the younger quarters for some reason will have in their heads, that it's like I'm not advanced enough to like learn any of this yet. And I think that's like maybe one of the roadblocks that you might run into. Like there's people that's like, oh, I'm only in my first trimester, I'm only in my first quarter, I don't think I can go to those things yet.
Or on the other end, the 13th quarter that thinks they don't need it again.
Yeah, I think it also comes down to personality, and there's going to be some people who have that lifelong learn from everybody mentality, and there's other people that think they got it figured out. And man, I've talked to a lot of people that I've gone to school with, people that I run into later on in like a seminar or workshop, like years down the road. And I've had people tell me like, I wish I was more prepared for what I was going to experience when I got out into the real world. Because I think, like I said, you're working with very mobile bodies. You're doing most of your adjustments in outpatient clinic with, people who've been going to outpatient clinic for a long time.
Yeah,
and you're getting hand-me-down patients. You're not actually going out and recruiting yourself, or like, or letting your work speak for itself and having referrals to kind of like, build upon one another. So it's kind of unfortunate, but I also think that there's like, I still try and convince people, like, even if they think, oh, I think I'm good, like I feel good with my manual work. It's like, I don't feel good with my manual work. Like I'm constantly trying to improve on stuff. And, even the other day I pulled up an old manual that I had, and I was looking through some of these things, and I was like, man, I forgot about this. This is cool. I'm going to go back and revisit some of these assessments and some of these manipulations. And it's like, I think that's what keeps you fresh and keeps you excited, is like, if you get into that same mindset where everyone's giving the flying 7 and you're only doing general, then I think you're going to be bored in work. You're not going to get that same great feeling of like, when a patient you've seen a couple times says, oh, that's new, no one's ever done that for me before. And then it translates into them feeling better and getting a better result. And, I think that's the exciting thing. That's what I tell my wife about when I get home from work, and I'm like, hey, I did this, I had a person come in with this and they presented this way, and I did this and it was great. And, that keeps things exciting.
Yeah.
So what was your favorite adjustment from the seminar that you feel like you're honing in on?
So I have been really trying to do the elbow,
Oh yeah.
the elbow one, the supine elbow. I don't really have a good success rate right now, but I have, hit it on a few times, and it's like super satisfying when it does happen.
For everybody involved.
Yep.
Well, that's good, man. It's
Yeah,
it's a tricky one.
the one that I've been like looking into.
It's definitely a tricky adjustment, and a lot of it has to do with having the person relaxed and making sure that you can kind of like build that sense of calm for them too, right? And whether it's like you're adjusting a low back, or you're adjusting a neck, or you're adjusting someone's wrist or elbow, it's like part of that experience isn't the line of drive and the contact and everything like that. Part of it is just like the confidence and the presence and that calm demeanor that just brings that person down to a point where they can actually like relax a little bit. Because everyone's had that experience where it's like, you're not going to move a thing on this person because they're just so wound tight. So it's a good one. And like, you've got the videos and everything like that too, so go back and just practice, get someone who you're really comfortable with, who can give you feedback on it, and let people do it on you as well. Like, the best way to do that stuff is teach it to someone else.
Mhm.
And then
Yeah.
be able to give them the same feedback that you were getting as well. So that's great.
Yeah,
Any
definitely.
last closing thoughts for you, Art?
Yeah, I was gonna say something we were just talking about just now. Oh yeah, a lot of my classmates, they're aware, they know that I've attended a bunch of seminars and like I've been practicing a ton in terms of technique, and they're like, "Oh yeah, you're probably like the best adjuster in the class. Like, like I'll hit certain adjustments or a cervical on somebody, and like, oh, even my intern couldn't do that." And then I always tell them like, "Hey, I'm still learning, and I'm probably gonna be learning, even when I'm out of school. This is just like a matter of getting hands on and getting the practice and the reps in, and raising that success rate to a point where I feel like more comfortable in terms of." Not just even just adjustment, but just like getting to the point, the setting up and having that connection with whoever you're working on, that you're both comfortable in that position, and then go ahead and sending that adjustment. Um, but yeah, I think that's like one of my takeaways is that even though a lot of people in my class are like, "Oh, he's super good at things," and I'm like, "Hey, I don't claim any high throne. I'm learning as much as you guys are, and I will continue to learn." And that's why I look forward to opportunities like the HVLA seminar.
That's really good to hear. That's very refreshing. It's nice.
Man,
You're doing a
it's
great job. Like, I felt like you were very in tune when you took the course. You were all in. You had great questions. You took a lot of feedback positively. You made good adjustments to yourself in order to like just look like you know what you're doing even better. So it was cool to watch like your transformation like over literally an 8 hour day. It was pretty cool. And then into day two, it was just like
Yeah,
a new person walked in.
that was the
yeah,
coolest thing, was seeing how many people took stuff from day one and then just were immediately able to kind of execute it in day two. And like, it's always nice getting praise like that too. So you kind of have to be, obviously humble is great, but also like you should be proud of that, because you're not just sitting there and it's not just happening to you. You're putting in the work and you're dedicated to it. So it's only going to get better from here on out, man. The more practice, the better. And Joe and I practice every day. It's what makes this really fun and exciting. So keep up the good work.
Yeah.
yeah. I
One
appreciate it.
Yeah, one last little thing is we're going to try to start to figure out what we're going to do when we come back out to San Jose. So we were all
Mhm.
just texting. There's a couple weekends around that area that are a little tough for all of us. So we want to make sure that all four of us can get out there. But,
Mhm.
commonly people think that it's just going to be like a big group of students, but we will have actually some practicing docs that do want to continue to, elevate their skills that are going to be joining us on this next one when we get out there. So we're going to get bigger space to make
Oh,
that
sweet.
happen. Um, but yeah, so we'll be coming out more than likely sometime in the summer. We just got to hone in on a date. Yeah,
Great, great. Yeah, and I'll be happy to. I know a couple of people that have graduated, and I'll let them know, like, hey, these guys are coming back into town.
yeah,
We
absolutely.
appreciate it, man. Yeah,
Yeah,
we appreciate it, and all you did to promote us last time too. Thanks so much for that. It really helps for us to get the word out like that. So thank you.
yeah. Thank you so much. All right,
No, I
I'm gonna.
appreciate it, guys. The seminar experience was great, and I really just want to reiterate, like, just come into it with an open mind and just like have that lifelong learner mentality that there's always something to prove in.
Awesome.
That's
That's
great,
good.
man.
We're gonna clip
Thanks for
it.
the time.
Yeah,
Yeah,
clip it.
exactly.
That was money.